As I was doing the Las Palmas videos, I realized that Barcelona don't actually need a double pivot. A lot of you didn't agree with what I was saying, but some did, and in this video we'll take a look at why Xavi uses the pivot, the problems tactically with the pivot, and also why Xavi should use a single pivot. Please do subscribe if you're new around here. We upload 3 times a week and we do tactical analysis on each Barcelona game. So to enjoy the content, please do subscribe. Also, don't forget to stay until the end of the video because at the end I will explain why Xavi should actually use a single pivot. But let's see why he uses the double pivot. Xavi uses the double pivot in the build-up in order for outlets to be possible for the goalkeeper. And this also draws a lot more players in centrally. And also the triangles that can be individually created by the pivot, the center back and the full back. But higher up the pitch, we know it's all about control, where we actually see our left winger invert. It usually was Gavi that do this, but nowadays it's Joao Felix, to create this box in midfield. That is to overload the midfield and also to remain in control of the ball. So that is mainly why Xavi uses the double pivot in this Barca team. Somebody in the comments said that it's also because of Frenkie de Jong, and it's absolutely true. Xavi is making space for him because I don't think he's really a CDM, nor is he a free 8. He's somewhere in between that because he's good at really both, right? So Xavi is really trying to fit Frenkie de Jong in this team. So that's also one of the reasons why Barca plays the double pivot. The problem that I have with the double pivot, or the problems with the double pivot, is the fact that the moment that you build up from the back, teams normally, like we always see, they like to defend very narrow and they try to sit on Barcelona's pivots, which actually nullify our build-up play, and they close down the center completely. And if you can remember correctly, against, I don't know if it was Bilbao, where Barcelona was trapped on one side, where those guys scored that 28-second goal, or what is it, 48 seconds, that very quick goal that Barcelona conceded. This is the problems with the pivot. It makes the midfield, it makes it really congested, right? That midfield box is even worse because there's no movement. Let's say the free 8s move. They can't move because the pivot is already there, which means that these guys have to stay back, and I touched on this in the previous video. And the wingers can't invert, so there's no movement because they're already in that position, and therefore the fullback cannot come forward because the winger is not moving. So it's a real static system, with the double pivot, and it's easy to market as well. They can pick Barcelona's players up in that box midfield. It's very easy to pick them up. When it comes to positional play, you have to look at the pitch zonally, right? The pitch are divided into these zones. I think it's 21 zones, but just take these for an example, right? And if you play with a flat 4-3-3, you have at least 2 players horizontally and 2 players vertically, right? So there's a player in each zone for Barcelona. However, if you look at the box midfield, you will see that there are a very important zone missing, which is the width. So it's not only wingers being wide where you have width, it's also these positions right here. So suddenly the pass from center back and fullback, winger, becomes very difficult now because they are very far away and people can cut these passing lanes out, right? So it's very difficult to play with this system, and that's why I'm saying it's static, because there's little to no movement and important zones have no players. Like I said in the previous video, the tactical analysis of the game against Shakhtar, it's very difficult. If teams defend narrow, they would actually leave a lot of space on the wings for Barcelona to attack. And if they do want to go to a man-to-man situation, the midfield will be open up. So it's very difficult to defend the shape actually. And that is something that we don't realize as fans and players, right? If a high press comes in, you're going to leave acres of space, especially with the ability of Marc-Andre ter Stegen. Man-to-man systems won't even work because, let's say for an example, the wingers block the fullbacks, then the ball can easily go to the center back. If they try to press the center backs, then the ball can easily go to the fullbacks, and if one plays out of position, they have to cover, and eventually you will find a free man. You've heard of that term before in Barcelona style. Like here, you can see the guys are very wide, and in order for them to be able to apply any pressure, they would have to go very high, and you can't do that without leaving space, right? And if you look at these guys, if they can mark, they would leave space. The fullback can easily be reached through the center back and then to the fullback, even straight through to Firmin, because they are higher up, So Easy. If the striker presses Inigo, then Romeo will be open. If the winger presses Alonso, then the fullback will be open. The winger, excuse me. So you can't press. And if Alonso was here, it would have been easy to mark him. And this is what I'm saying, having players in these zones. And that is why the 4-3-3 with a single pivot is the Barcelona way. Let's look at the zones. The center backs can easily drop next to Romeo, for example, if he's there, right? There's even space for the free eights to come back to. And this is all possible because there aren't already players in those positions or those zones. Let's say the free eights drop back, right? So let's say they get that, now opens up the half spaces for the wingers to drop into. Can you see the importance here, guys? The spaces, that is the importance. So let's say the wingers now go into the half space. Automatically, the wings are now open for the fullback. So can you guys see how important the single pivot is for all the movements that we can make? And this should happen simultaneously. If the free eights go, the winger inverts and the fullback. So that should all happen simultaneously on either side, whichever side we are on, right? Now let's add movement to that. If the fullbacks go, people have to follow them, right? Because they don't want to be opened up. If the wingers invert, that would draw the fullbacks of the opponents closer, and then that will give the gaps for our fullbacks to go. We've seen this countless times, with Coutinho and Messi. We see it with Jordi Alba, and the triangles. The triangles, therefore, will always be intact, And we know, guys, I know you guys see now my point on why we should be using a single pivot. Double pivot is not the Barcelona way, and I only realized this when I did research for the Las Palmas video. And that is it, guys. We can move the ball around, and if these guys move, all the movements should be simultaneously. There's not only 4 players that shouldn't be moving, which is Lewandowski, Romeo, and the 2 center backs. That's the only players that shouldn't be moving. Furthermore, the free eights, fullbacks, and wingers should all move simultaneously, and that is why I think Barcelona don't need a double pivot. Like here, Firmino is running towards the ball, right, and that opens up the half space for Lamine Yamal to run into. And if Lamine would actually do this left back has nothing or no reason to not follow him, right? And therefore that allows Joao Cancelo to have the wing all to himself, right? And that movement can kill teams. Right here you actually see the player followed Firmino into that space, right? And he fell for the trap. Lamine would invert, right? And then he could just firstly give a 1-2, and then Joao Cancelo can easily be down that wing, right? So that's the movement that I'm talking about, guys. Very intricate, and slight changes can make the world of differences. So guys, that is why I believe that Barcelona shouldn't be using the double pivot. In fact, we should be using a single pivot. And I would like to know from all of you who disagree with me, why you guys think that we do need a double pivot, right? And I know Oriol Romeo and Frankie de Jong is not ideal, but I'm just saying we shouldn't be playing with a double pivot. Let me know down in the comment section. And as always, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. That's helping me massively to get the channel to grow. I have big plans for this channel to make it better, right? And also, I would love to have some interaction with you guys. I will be linking a Facebook page down below so that you guys can send me messages and talk to me, and during games, for example. But thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.